The haters were right. My Bronco is a lemon. In the last few videos with the Bronco, I've talked about some of the issues I've had with it, but finally, legally, I can tell you exactly what happened and the end result of all the problems I've had with my truck. See, this is my last week ever with this truck right here, and here's why. At the beginning of this year, this Bronco absolutely started to freak out. It had every single light on the dash on, and the truck would refuse to start and refuse to turn off, along with a whole host of other problems. At the beginning of this year, I went to go start the truck one day, and the truck refused to start. You would put your foot on the brake as you would, and push the start button. All the lights in the dash would light up, but the truck wouldn't trigger the starter and it wouldn't turn the engine on. Now this went on for some time, and eventually I got the truck running after disconnecting the battery and hooking it back up. But then we had another problem in our hands aside from all of the dash lights that were on the truck. When you go to turn the truck off, the truck would refuse to turn off. Try to go for a remote start here, and it does not want to remote start. So it cycles all the electronics like it should. Starts no problem. Still have the check engine light. Let's turn it back off. And it's not turning off. The truck is still running. You can hear it still running. All the electronics are off. You take a step out of the truck and be like, why is the engine still running? Did I forget to turn it off? Go back into the truck and see. No, it's turned off. You turn it back on, turn it off, and then most of the time it would trigger the engine off. But at the very beginning, I had to literally disconnect the negative battery cable in order to force the engine to shut down. And the second time it happened, a couple of days later, the truck absolutely refused to start, and we had to tow it to the Ford dealership. They did some things and maybe a software update, who really knows what they did, and the truck was working fine once again. After this point on, it was just glitch after glitch after glitch. The truck was always starting for the most part. Remote start almost never worked. Now it's been in 5 times at the Ford dealership. They played around with wiring, software, calling Ford, everything. They've tried everything that they can do and they haven't been able to fix it. They offered a 6th time. They said they would bring in a tech to look at the truck, but after the 5th time I'd kind of had enough, and after the 4th time of having all of these issues, this Bronco right here qualified for the lemon law since I am the first owner. Now, what exactly is the lemon law? Well, it's different from state to state, but let me walk you through the basic guidelines of what you can do to get your car lemoned and what the result is. In the first 2 years, if you purchase a vehicle and you have the same reoccurring problem, you can get your car into the lemon law process. If you keep bringing it back to the dealership over and over again for something they either can't fix or something that continuously is breaking, you can get your car bought back by the manufacturer, resulting in you getting your money back. So if you ever see a buyback or a lemon title on a vehicle you're looking at a dealership, or perhaps someone has listed for sale, it means that there was a problem with it, but the problem has now been fixed. Sometimes with a car that has a buyback or a lemon, you can get a really good deal because it's a small, insignificant problem. And in the case of my Bronco, it's something similar. And finally, I say, you know what? It's been 4 times. I'm just going to go through the process and get this car bought back by Ford. The lemon law strictly is there to protect the buyer from any manufacturer defect. But the process to actually get your car lemon lawed isn't all that simple. So how do you get your car bought back by the manufacturer? I went to the dealership and I said, you know what, I don't want to bring it back into service. I'm tired of bringing it back into service. The truck kind of works and I can still use it. Just let me keep the truck. Let's get it bought back. Then I was told to contact their sales manager. Hey, do this. He'll take care of all the lemon law process. Call him. He tells me to go back to the tech. Then the tech tells me to go to his head tech. Then back to the sales guy. And then it was just back and forth, constantly throwing me into a loop where eventually I told him, like, hey, you guys are just giving me the same people and you're not actually solving anything for me. So the dealership just kind of threw their hands up and said, you know what, contact Ford. They'll deal with this. Contact Ford. They really don't want to deal with it either. They're like, email this guy, go talk to your dealer, you know, all just a bunch of stuff to pass it on. Now, some manufacturers will have a representative. If you have an issue with your car, here's a lemon law representative and let's get this thing, you know, process rolling. But you're also negotiating with the manufacturer. So you might not want to use the manufacturer's guy. So there's 2 other ways I could have done. I could have hired my own lawyer and paid out of pocket, and eventually those charges might have been covered by Ford. But the second option that you can take is going through the Better Business Bureau. They have a place where you can file a claim for a lemon law and a whole section and a whole bunch of people dedicated to this. This is not sponsored. This is just the way that I did it, and it's very simple and it's free. I submitted a claim with the BBB and they just took it. They asked for a bunch of paperwork and they submitted it to Ford. They negotiated like, hey, this is the problems that this customer is having. Let's get this car bought back. Ford agreed, and then at that point it was between me and Ford. Ford initially wanted to give me my full money back, but they wanted to charge me for fair use of the vehicle and give me $8,000 less off the MSRP because I had driven it 18, 19, 20,000 miles before turning it in. But I did not want to take a $8,000 haircut. So I told them no. And if Ford didn't agree, which they ended up agreeing to my terms and taking that use out, but if they didn't agree to taking that use out, then I would have gone back to the BBB, and then they would have tried negotiating with Ford again and making sure that they're following all the rules. And if Ford ended up saying no and just stuck their foot down, they probably could have charged me that $8,000 legally. But if you're going through a pipeline and you're going through the manufacturer's version, they might try to charge you for things like that you might not catch. After all that said and done, I got back everything for my vehicle. I got back my tax, my title, my registration, all of the maintenance I've done, oil changes, the $200 I got charged from the dealership, even though it was supposed to be a warranty thing. I even got back my modifications because I had installed paint protection film. I also got back, and almost equally as important as the modifications, if not more important, was my interest on my loan. Because if you don't know the current state of loans and financing, loan rates are very high. 6, 7, 8% is very regular, but I got all of the money on interest I paid back, which was quite a significant amount because even though it might have been 7, it was still in the 4s, I believe, and that's a lot of interest you're paying. Now, I'm not really quite ready to give up the Bronco just yet. I've only had it for 2 years, haven't even get to really use and appreciate it. Never really been to a proper off-roading day with the truck just yet because of circumstances, and I was hoping to actually get some use out of it. Now, even though I'm standing next to it, by the time you're watching this, the Bronco has been sold and acquired by Ford. But after all the issues I've had with it and some of the other things that absolutely drive me crazy about this vehicle, I'm actually happy the Bronco is kind of leaving. Now, speaking of the things that drive me absolutely crazy, I actually want to jump into those and give you guys a little bit of an ownership perspective over the last couple years on some of the things that make me not want to buy another Bronco. The first thing is they're depreciating like crazy, but I could go buy a used one that's already depreciated. But there's some other bigger reasons why I'm like, you know what, it's gone. I had the experience, let's move on to something new. The first thing and the biggest reason of everything is the amount of noise, road noise, wind noise that you would hear inside the cabin. It's hard to hear your music in the truck when you're going down the highway. It's impossible to have a conversation with the person sitting behind you. You won't be able to speak to them whatsoever, and even just talking to the person next to you, it's really not that good. All the good stuff kind of gave it an excuse to be bad at that one particular thing, but now that it's gone and stepping into other vehicles, man, that thing was noisy. And keep in mind, I had a hard top with sound deadening in my truck. I'm not sure if the later years got better. The Bronco Raptor I drove was a little bit better because there was a little bit more padding in the doors and stuff, I believe. At the time when I reviewed one, I wasn't really thinking about it, but we did review one, and if you haven't checked it out, check it out after this. And that's one of the biggest reasons I didn't want to get into another Bronco. But the second thing has to do with the convertible aspect, which is the reason for the noise and the reason you put up with the noise. Unless the Bronco is your second vehicle or you're living in like California or Arizona, you're really not going to get the most amount of opportunities to take the door and the roof off. So I barely even took the doors and the roof off of my truck. I mean, this year, probably the doors and roof stayed on all year. I popped the front 2 panels off and threw them in the trunk at the very most. The only time I had it fully converted was last year because it just sat in the garage. It sat in the garage. We took it out when we wanted to take it out. We pulled it back in when we wanted to take it in. Even though it's a 10 to 15 minute process to take everything on and off, it is a little clumsy. You're always afraid that you're gonna damage something or drop something or scratch your paint. The one thing that would have solved it and made this a whole lot better, and the thing I was going to do this year if it wasn't, you know, having all these issues, was putting a soft top on it. If you're going just around town, whatever, and you're going to park it, you have your doors on, at least you can take the soft top off and put it back on. Would have been a huge benefit, and I would have loved to have both aspects to it. And in the future, if I ever get another one, I'm definitely going to get a hard top and then buy a soft top. There's a bunch of other amazing things that I have to say about the Bronco, so I guess the question many people are asking is, should you buy one? And the answer to that is maybe, because I think I want to buy another one, but it would be in very different circumstances that I bought this one in. The circumstances if I was to buy another Bronco would be very different from the ones when I bought it in the first point. When buying my Bronco, I specifically spec'd it to be a comfortable, luxurious, daily driver that I can also take off-road. The Bronco was the best daily driver. Aside from the amount of noise inside the cabin, the Bronco was so comfortable and the build quality was really good. The only thing other than the noise is the wireless Apple CarPlay would sometimes disconnect more than it should have and more than what was appropriate. Now, if I was to buy another Bronco, I would do it differently. I would get a base model, perhaps a crashed one, perhaps one with a blown motor, a blown trans, something like that, a project truck. Something I can take off-road, something I can really beat up and not care about, because I think that's the place the Bronco would have shined even more than the road. Because it ate up snow, it ate up everything, you never felt a thing. The Bronco, however, isn't as good as a Jeep would be off-road. The Bronco is a better daily driver. The Bronco is still very off-road capable, but do I recommend it? Do I recommend the spec that I had? What do I have to say after getting it bought back by Ford? What I have to say is, if you're someone who's not worried about long-term reliability, it's the perfect vehicle. If you're having it for the amount of time that the warranty is going to last you, you should be completely fine. You're gonna love it. Most new vehicles don't want to last more than an extended warranty period. They don't want to last more than 7 to 10 years. After that, they kind of become throwaway. After about 70, 80,000 miles, things like transmissions are starting to fail. So, do you really want to join that club? Probably not, because you probably don't want to replace a trans. And the thing that people are saying is, well, they might be a little bit more complicated, but you can still do a majority of the stuff yourself, whatever. And I showed you guys the engine bay of the Bronco that looks absolutely crazy. People were saying you can still work on it. Yes, you can, but do you really want to be fiddling with all of that? Probably not. With those things being said, I absolutely love the Bronco. I'm very sad to see it go. I won't be replacing it with another vehicle in my personal collection. But in the next video, we will be taking delivery of a controversial new vehicle. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that video or any future videos to come. Leave a like and comment down below on your thoughts of the Bronco. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.